Okay, this week is going to be the fun week. So, we've spent these last several months, really, learning the very basics about entomology, about different insects, about their life cycle. And the reason that I set it up this way was so that when you finally got to a scene, to a crime scene, to whatever, you would know what you were looking for, you would know what you were looking at, and be able to handle it. Okay, so now we get into the nitty-gritty of the stuff and what's really rather fun, which is what the entomologist actually does at the crime scene. So an entomologist is involved at a crime scene. In a perfect world, he or she is ideally a part of the initial investigation team. Insects are both easily disturbed and easily missed during the processing of a scene and the processing of a body. Therefore, someone without entomological expertise may miss important evidence. It may literally fly away in the case of flies and beetles. Or they may just not know where to look for things like pupa or wandering maggots or anything of that nature. They may also be focusing in on sort of the big, pretty bugs like most people do, butterflies and the really large beetles or the centipedes and the millipedes, all that sort of stuff that really have nothing to do with the question we're trying to answer. So an entomologist should be there from the beginning to say, this is what's important, here's what we need to get. At the very least, the entomologist should have access to basic information pertaining to the case. Hopefully, she will have access to the autopsy, either the full autopsy or, at the very least, access to the body bag, the wrappings, whatever other material was associated with the corpse. She also needs to see the scene photos to get an idea of what insects would be present, where the body was placed, how the body was placed. Was it buried? Was it covered in something? Was it completely wrapped up? What was going on there? And what disturbances may have delayed insect activity? Was that body completely burned? Are we just looking at disarticulated bones and some piles of drippings? What are we looking at exactly? Access to the police report with initial witness statements is also key. Many of those initial witness statements, including statements from responding officers, will have a clue or two about insect activity. So some responding officers may notice a loud buzzing sound as they approach. That could be the buzzing of flies. Some witnesses may say they went over and investigated because they saw a big cloud of flies there, or they smelled something, or they saw a bunch of maggots wandering away. That sort of thing. They're especially called worms. Oh, there are just worms everywhere. That's a big clue that there were maggots in that area. Finally, the entomologist needs to be prepared to thoroughly search a scene with a proper kit. In a few minutes or in a few slides, I'm going to show you just a basic list of what goes in a kit, but in a subsequent lecture, I'm going to show you what I have in my kit. Do a quick movie, we'll see how well that works. No matter what, though, any person on the investigative team needs to remember who is in charge. This is key. Now, it is usually a detective who has taken on the case, and he or she is responsible for who has access to a particular scene and when. It is up to the detective to let you know when you are allowed at the scene and when you should leave. That detective is responsible for that scene. And there may be other bits of evidence that are going to degrade more quickly, that could be easily disturbed. And if you come on the scene and just sort of wander your way in, a detective could get very angry. You don't want to see a detective angry. But you could compromise that scene. And that is something you want to avoid with whatever means possible. So first thing you do when you go to a scene is you report to the detective. You let him or her tell you, okay, go ahead and start your evidence collection, or wait for a while. There have been times I've waited for hours at a scene. There's a reason I have books with me. Other times I get there, the body is already gone. They just say, take what you need and get out. Just whatever happens, you listen to that detective. And there will be a time the detective says, okay, you're done now. Even if you don't have full evidence, you can say, well, I need a little bit more. He or she may need you off that scene right away. You just listen. Now, in a future lecture, I'm going to go over my collection kit. So I'm going to show you a video of what I have in my personal kit. Most entomologists are consultants, and so we put together our own kit. There's no standardized kit that anybody gives you. You can buy kits online, although they're so much cheaper to make yourself, and they're personalized for exactly what you want. Don't buy those things. Don't do it. but, you know, they're kind of nice to have, I suppose. Anyhow, these are the basics that kind of go in a collection kit. First and foremost, you need a net. Now, the butterfly net, this is just that standardized butterfly net you see all insect nerds running around with. It is used to collect adult flies at the scene for the most part. Now, when I say collect adult flies, that's in theory what it's for. Adult flies can be very hard to catch. Those adult flies will give you an idea of what insects are on the bodies. I'll talk about in a minute, but they are very difficult to actually get with a net. I got my first insect net when I was, 4, I think. I caught my first butterfly when I was 6. Remember it vividly. And so I've been doing this for 30 years now, and even I can only get about 50% of the time get a good crop of flies over a body. So it's a lot of effort to try and get flies off of this body and make sure you get a good sampling of what's actually there. So really what I use a net for is more of my ID when I come to a scene. So I was working a scene in San Jose because that butterfly net, it lets everybody in the world know, hey, I'm the entomologist. That is the international sign for entomologist, is a butterfly net. So I was working the scene is along a 5-lane freeway in California. And there was a body found on the side of the road. They had tried to disguise the crime scene like it was Caltrans, like it was work. So they had orange cones out. They sort of had the workers out there, but then they had a big SWAT van. That really gave it away. But they needed all that security because people are just going to pull off and see what the heck's going on. So here I come. I've got a call. I'm supposed to go to the scene. The detective's not even on the scene. They just say, go show up and do what you need to do. So I pull up, and of course these SWAT guys come out of this van. They've got full riot gear on. They've got these guns. And so I leave my car, butterfly net first. Just, hello. It's me, I'm the entomologist. As soon as they see that butterfly net, they stand down. Like, oh, the entomologist's here. Good, good, good. So I use it primarily as identification until I can get up there and show them my real credentials. But every once in a while, you do want to collect a flying insect, whatever. All right, so butterfly net. Vials and kill jars. Vials are really what we use for the most part at the scene. They're just glass vials full of alcohol. Kill jars you can sometimes use. These are just normal jars that usually have some plaster of Paris in the bottom or some cotton balls or something in there that is charged with a kill fluid. The most common kill fluid is acetone, so nail polish remover. It's cheap, it's easy to get, and it kills these adults very effectively. So you just charge up your kill jar. So if you want to make your own, you just take some cotton balls, soak them in acetone, throw them in there, and close up the kill jar. Any bugs that you put in there will fall asleep and die within just a few moments. So this way I can, when I get those adult flies, if I'm collecting them, I can kill them and deal with them when I get back to the lab. You want to have forceps or tweezers and some small brushes. Forceps are good for the larger insects. The small brushes are good for the tiny, soft-bodied first and second instar maggots or eggs. Very easy to pick them up with brushes. Live specimen containers, I usually use some sort of Tupperware or those Ziploc throwaway containers to keep the live specimen containers in. Anything that is liquid tight, so you can put in some food, like liver, something like that. Labels. Labels will go both inside and outside the vial. So you need pre-cut pieces of paper to write on that go inside the vial and some sticky labels or tape to go on the outside. Number 2, graphite pencil. The reason I put this on here is most inks will dissolve in alcohol, and you're going to be using ethanol in order to preserve your maggots. Pencil does just fine. There's our special inks. They're called micron pens that are kind of expensive, a few bucks a piece. And they don't last very long, but they're indelible ink, so you can use those. But the easiest thing is a graphite pencil. If you lose it, you don't cry. So there's that. A hand trowel or a garden spade or something like that for soil samples. A thermometer. You want to be able to take the temperature at the scene and the maggot mass underneath the body just to get an idea of what's going on there. A camera. Lately, I've been just using my camera phone. That works much better than anything else. I want to take pictures of the scene, of the body itself, of where I find the maggots, of anything else that might prove interesting. A ruler so that you can get general sizes of maggots or maggot masses. I also carry around some tape measures so I can have larger areas if I need to measure something. Preservation chemicals, that's ethanol for the most part. A heat source and a water source. This is because when you preserve insects, you need to use hot water. Now, a heat source, this is only if you don't have, say, a thermos of hot water, or you're going to be out in the field for days at a time. You're going to need to heat up water right away. Sometimes I carry with me a little mini backpacking stove. I don't really need it, though. I only carry that with me if I'm going to be out camping and doing this sort of thing. Most of the time, I just use a water source. I boil some water at home. I put it in a thermos, and you get a good thermos. Mine is from Starbucks. And you will, that'll keep the water warm or hot for a good 8 hours. So it's perfect. Paper towels, you can use those for a variety of things to cover up some living insects, to charge your kill jars, to clean some stuff up. They're just good to have. Your disposable rubber gloves, of course. You don't want to be touching dead things. A sifting screen. This will sift out soil and leaf litter. And your death scene form. And in a subsequent lecture, I'm going to go over all these death scene forms for you.